Would you tell us a little bit how you got involved with this police force?
So my story isn't the typical story. Most you'll get from law enforcement officers is you'll get, well, I've always wanted to do it since I was a kid, or that somebody had this grand moment with a police officer that changed their life and that's what triggered them to do it. That is the furthest from mine. I mean, I had no interest in law enforcement growing up. When I started college, I started to be an accountant. And then I realized I didn't like math that much. And then, so I changed majors and I talked to my advisor. I said, well, what major do I have that I can transfer most of my classes to? They said, well, you can do criminal justice. I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then, so I was working as a security guard at Castor Knott's. This tells you how old I am. And one of the ladies there said, I was studying for some test or something while I was waiting for her to finish up. She goes, well, you ever thought about working for Mount Juliet Police Department? I said, well, no, not really. I grew up in Lebanon, not really thinking very fondly of the city of Mount Juliet. And they said, well, they make $1 more an hour than what you're making now. I said, sign me up. So that's how I ended up in Mount Juliet. I started as a dispatcher 26 years ago because they made $1 more an hour than I made where I was at. And I found out that it was something I was good at, something that I really enjoyed doing. And then the city of Mount Juliet kind of grew on me, and here I am 26 years later.
That's really awesome, but $1 more an hour does make a difference.
Back then, it made a bunch of difference. Growing up
26
poor.
years ago, yeah. I've been married 26 years. That was 97.
I started in 97,
Yeah.
yes.
So, as a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I grew up in a poor family in Lebanon that I wanted just to escape from that cycle. I thought about, thought about the military, but that didn't work out. And then I thought about going to school. I would be the first person in my family that went to higher education. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of my family that graduated high school. So me going to college was a big step, and I was just going to see how things fell out from there. I was good at math. That's why I thought accounting would work for me. And then I realized I just didn't like it that much. So
I hate math. Math is the worst. So this issue is also about the whole issue is themed for love. You're going to be in the love issue. So tell me a little bit. Are you married, family?
What is not to love about this face? No, I met my wife. We've been married for 25 years this May. We'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary. We've been together for a little over 26 years. And it's me and her, and we have one daughter together. We have 2 dogs. Consistently throughout our marriage, the names have changed, and we're a big dog-loving family. I have 2 buried in the Mount Juliet Cemetery. I have 2 urns in my house. Once I figured out that's much cheaper than buying a plot at the cemetery. So that's my family.
You have a plot at the cemetery for your dogs.
Yes, a lot of people don't realize it, but
I didn't know we could do that.
Mount Juliet Memorial Gardens has a section.
It's a pet cemetery.
Not the Stephen King kind, but there is a pet cemetery there. And I have two animals buried over there.
That's really cool. I didn't know that you could even do that.
Mm-hmm.
But Stephen King did ruin that for everyone. So you are now the chief of police. So
Yes,
tell
I
us
am.
how that happened.
Well, it started really, let's go back probably 13, 14 years ago. We had a chief of police come in, and I was working in investigations at the time. Most of my background is in investigations. And he said, hey, he came in, he's a new chief, and he says, I want you to come out of investigations and take over patrol. I said, well, I mean, why would I want to do that? Things are going good for me where I am. I have been not tooting my own horn, but I was a good investigator and I enjoyed investigations. And if you're familiar with the Peter Principle says that we are promoted to our lowest level of incompetence. So because I'd been so good as an investigator for so many years, that just naturally means that I would be a good fit for patrol, which I was not. So first I turned it down, and then I ended up accepting it later. But I struggled in patrol when I went back to patrol, and it took a lot of treading water, a lot of realizing that I wasn't leading the way that I wanted to lead, and then I changed. I made a philosophy change. My mentor from day one when I walked into the police department was James Hambrick. And when I was a dispatcher, I dispatched third shift when he was on third shift. Then I went to the road on third shift and he was my corporal. So we had been together for most of our career. And he came to me and goes, "Hey man, what are you doing? I mean, this is not Mike Mullins. Do what Mike Mullins was doing to be successful in investigations." And about that same time, he got promoted I was a lieutenant, he became the deputy chief, and I just kind of modeled myself after him from that day forward. And about 10 years ago, he got promoted to chief. And I was excited about that. And he came to me, he goes, "I want you to be my deputy chief, but I got a deal for you." So let me think about it. And he said, "You do all the stuff behind the scenes, you make the wheels go round, and I'll handle all the out front stuff." I'm like, "Fantastic, because this is not a face for TV." And he said, "That'll be the deal. We'll finish our career out together, and you'll be my deputy chief, and I'll be chief, and we retire together." So that sounds like a deal. And then a little over a year ago, he came to me and goes, "Hey, Mike, I think I'm going to have to break our deal." I said, "No, you're not." He goes, "Yeah, I'm being called to another location, and Miss Denise wants me to retire." And I said, "Well, who matters more, me or Denise?" And I lost that.
Well, yeah.
But he retired, and I really, for the last 11 years, I had no intentions of ever being chief. And so here I am.
We got some pretty big shoes to fill, but since he's been right there with you the whole time, and you know the ropes.
So he is the first person that's going to tell you that when he inherited the Mount Juliet Police Department, it is not the Mount Juliet Police Department we have today. We were not. I'm going to say we was not as well accepted by the community. Mm-hmm. We did not have as good a reputation as we have now, and the culture was just different. And I've been tied to him the whole way through his chief, and I've seen the things that he did, and I was with him during this culture change, and I was with him as he built what we are today, and I've seen that process. So there's nothing in our culture that's going to change. We're going to try to improve a couple things, and we'll try to implement a wellness plan and make things better for our officers, both personally and professionally. And we're going to try to lower the stress, make them a little more healthier. We're going to build on our training. At the department, we do a very good job of training the people that we have them doing the jobs currently. But we probably need to do a little better in the area of getting them ready for the next step, getting them ready to be the next sergeant, the next detective, instead of waiting till they get there and then teaching them how to do the job. If we teach them ahead of time, they're better equipped to hit the ground running. And personally, my job as the chief is to kind of guide that vision, but most importantly, it's my job to get Deputy Chief Chandler ready for, in a few years, he's going to step into this role and I'm going to be out. So my job is to get Deputy Chief Chandler ready and to make sure that he inherits let's just hope, as good and maybe a little better than what I inherited from James. and keep things positive for the city of Mount Juliet and the Mount Juliet Police Department.
That's so important. I know one of the things that I hear the most about the police department, and when people, that's all good stuff. I mean, everyone's always like, "Oh yeah, well the Mount Juliet police officers are all very nice. They're not bad." And like we talked about, the interactions just aren't ugly, and that's so important.
Sure, I mean, you see, everybody's got a TV. They see what's happening in the world today. But it's not the bad dentist that you're seeing on TV every day. It's not the bad plumbers or the bad mechanics. It's the bad cops that make the TV every day. And it's though nobody hates a bad cop worse than a good cop. I promise you. But it's that stereotype that we're fighting around the world. We are very supported in this community, but uh, we're still human beings. We're still gonna make some mistakes from time to time, and we've got to have a relationship built with our community so that they know who we are and what we stand for before those mistakes are made, so that they understand that those are isolated situations and that is not the way we are as a whole. So if some person that tarnishes the badge in Kentucky is not a reflection of what we do here in the city of Mount Juliet.
Yeah, because I know there's a huge stigma with people not liking police officers, which I've never been that person because I love everybody. But I love the way that you guys handle it. I've heard Chief Hambrick speak about a situation where there was a guy with a gun. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was I guess I don't know exactly where it was, but he said that he made everybody stand down and talked the guy down, and that way nothing escalated. And it was a mental problem.
So the mental health issues that we're seeing, juvenile crime and mental health issues are by far the two biggest things that we're seeing a surge in right now. There's juvenile crime is through the roof. There's really no accountability for juveniles right now. Juveniles don't many. I don't want to be stereotyping everybody.
Yeah.
But many juveniles are not. Don't carry the same respect level, and there's no repercussions for their actions. They're not getting attention at home or love at home or the care that they need at home, so they venture out to find who will show them that. And a lot of times it's not positive people that will show them that attention in order to exploit that relationship with them. You mentioned that thing with Chief Hambrick. When we want to de-escalate everything. That's why many agencies around us, carry tasers, but we have a whole slew of less lethal options to try to de-escalate situations, especially with those dealing in crisis, because we don't want to hurt them and we don't want to get hurt while they're in a state of crisis either. So we have bowler wraps and we have impact munitions and we have our tasers and we have negotiators. So we do a lot to try to de-escalate what we can. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes people don't allow those things to happen, and you have to deal with the situation that you're handed. But it is a big deal right now for us. You talked about the thing with the gun. I personally witnessed the most incredible thing I've ever seen James Hambrick do. And I was a young officer, and I was a kind of a gung-ho guy, and I wanted to take everybody to jail. And I worked with James, and that just wasn't James. We went one day years ago when we were both on patrol on third shift. We went to the Waffle House. We got a call from the Waffle House of somebody passed out inside the Waffle House. And we went, and we get there. James is the first car. The guy was very lucky that James was the first car, because whoever got there first, it's their call, their decision. So James got there first, and I'm his backup unit. And we get there, and there's a guy passed out, face down in his plate of food. And we wake him up, and he rises up, and he's got hash browns all over his face, just stuck to his face. And for years, we called this guy face down in the hash browns. I mean, that's all we could. We would tell this story, and that's what we would call him. And James was talking to him, and the guy was apologetic. You know, he was obviously going through some stuff. And James says, "Buddy, what you need is Christ. Have you ever thought about going to church? Have you ever thought about accepting Christ?" And that sort of had that conversation with him. James gets a phone call after he announced his retirement. It was probably a month before his actual retirement date. And I really hope that somebody saved this message somewhere, because it's the most powerful thing I've ever heard. It was that guy. When none of us had even seen this guy for 20 something years. And so he calls. He actually came to the police department to see James. James wasn't there, so he left him a message on his phone and said that James saved his life that night. That he has been sober since that day, and I mean, just shows you how impactful we can be, and how lucky that individual was, and how Christ intervened in that situation that made James get there before I did. Because if I had got there before that James did, that man would have had a completely different testimony.
That is so sweet. I love that so much.
But to hear that message and hear that man on that voicemail, it was the most powerful thing I've ever heard.
That is incredible. So, let me see. And so you grew up in Lebanon, though?
I did. 1993, go Blue Devils.
So do you guys you said y'all are going to pretty much just keep improving on what James has been doing?
So I was telling our PIO, Justin Beasley, I said, one thing for sure, we're not going to take a step back from anything that Chief has worked the last 12 years to do. We're not going to step back from anything, and we're just going to continue to build on the platform that he has made for us. So I'm not giving up any of the ground that man has earned for us. We're just going to continue to be better. It's about 98% of the people that we arrest do not have Mount Juliet addresses. The bulk of it have Davidson County addresses. And what we find is, I mean, we're a border community to Nashville. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if you're going to steal something or break into something or do something along that line, you're not going to you're going to go somewhere where people have good stuff to steal, right? And that's what we find out is because Wilson County is the second most affluent county in the state, that people are coming over here because, I'm not being ugly, but you're not going to go break in cars in the projects because you may not find what you're looking for. But I really wish there was a little more responsible gun ownership in our city. Because a lot of people are leaving their guns in unlocked cars in our community. And we've kind of got a reputation in Nashville now that if people want a gun, go pull on a couple door handles in Mount Juliet and you'll find one. And that's where
So the advice here is lock your guns away.
The advice would be if you're going to be a gun owner, be a responsible gun owner. Carry it in your house at night, and if you're not going to carry it in your house at night for whatever reason, at least have the sense to lock your doors. Well, it ain't going to do you any good at night in your car if something happens.
No. Hey, burglar, hold on a minute. Let me run to the car and get my gun.
Mm-hmm. And juvenile crime, like I said earlier, crime is just through the roof. All the OPR hits that you see in, high percentage of those are all juveniles out here stealing cars because they're coming out at night, checking door handles.
What about drugs? What about how bad is that here?
Well, there's a good side and a bad side of that. On the good side of that, our dope guys do such a good job, and we'll call up, we'll have informants or we'll have undercovers and stuff, and they'll call up these drug dealers and they'll try to order to buy some dope in Mount Juliet. And even if the drug dealer lives in the city, he will not, a lot of the time, they will not sell drugs in the city because they know that we're here and they're fearful that they're going to get caught. So they will leave their house drive to Hermitage, to a parking lot in Hermitage, and they'll do the deal there. But we've had them tell us on the phone, I'm not going to sell to you now, Juliet's too hot. But they'll drive to Hermitage, meet the people, and then they're coming back in. So there's a lot of overdoses. There's a lot of fentanyl base right now. Me and you are about the same age, and we know when we were kids how readily available marijuana was. It's about the same now for heroin and fentanyl.
I saw y'all did it at Just Love once. That was when I saw it. But
We've actually done it at Just Love a couple times. Actually,
I love Just Love too.
we partnered with them at Thanksgiving. Just Love did an event for Thanksgiving for people that maybe are underprivileged. The other thing, Chief started it last year, but we're going to really push it this time. This year, we're going to push it really hard. They're called Chiefs on the Beat, because not everybody's available to come out in the morning. Some people got to get to work and they can't be there and they can't have those opportunities. So we're going to start pushing stuff in the afternoons. We're going to continue with our Coffee with Cops, where we're just going to create afternoon opportunities for us to meet people from the community and, engage with our public. Let them see that, we're flesh and blood the same as they are, and we bleed the same, and that we love on everybody. You said a while ago that you've never been that person to not really understand how people don't like the police because you like everybody. That was my philosophy, my leadership philosophy I had to present to the city manager. James always had his thing that he said at the end of his thing that he loves you and there's nothing you can do about it. But my leadership philosophy goes from James Hambrick, but not the exact same. But my Christ told me that I have to love my neighbor. He commanded me to love my neighbor. He didn't say love the neighbors that look like me or think like me or worship like me or vote like me. He commanded me to love my neighbor. So everything I do with the police department, everything I do with this community, I'm going to approach it from a position of love, because if I do that, I can't be wrong.
We're a little less hurried, a little less worried, living life between the lanes.